Good day, Algebra 2. Today's lesson is called Products, Quotients, and Conjugates. Well, we talked about I in our last lesson, the square root of negative 1. So we have certain powers here. We have I squared, which we said is I times I, which means root negative 1 times root negative 1. When you do root times itself, the roots just cancel out, so our answer is negative 1. So I squared is equal to negative 1. Well, if I were to put another exponent there and raise it one more, so now it's I to the third. Well, I to the third technically can break down to be I squared times I to the first. So let's do a little substitution here. We know that I squared now is equal to negative 1. And we have here I. So negative 1 times I is negative I. And lastly, we have I to the fourth. We could say is I squared times I squared. And each I squared we said is equal to negative 1. So times negative 1, that gives us 1. Now how is this useful? Well, if we do I to the fifth, you'll see that it actually repeats itself. So I can do I to the fourth times I to make it I to the fifth. We know that I to the fourth is equal to 1 times I. 1 times I is just I. So now, I'm going to erase some of this to show the chart here. Okay. We know that I need to make some room here, don't I? Let's move this on down a little bit. Okay. Alright, so we know that I is equal to I, obviously. We've just shown that I squared is equal to negative 1. I to the third is equal to negative I. And I to the fourth is equal to 1. Now, we noticed that when we did I to the fifth, that got us back up to I. So now this is just a cycle that keeps repeating itself after every 4 terms. So we know that I to the sixth is going to be negative 1. Because notice it goes I, negative 1. I to the seventh will be negative I. I to the eighth will be 1. And this keeps repeating every 4 exponents. So if I were to give you a term that said I to the 23rd, I know that the closest multiple of 4 to that is 24. So I know that's going to line up. All the multiple 4s are going to line up. And I know that it's equal to 1. So I to the 23rd is right before that. So it lines up with this row. That means it's negative I. So you'll have to do some of those on your homework about finding I to whatever exponent may be. Again, the key to it is find the multiple of 4 and line it up with the multiple of 4. And then if you're trying to find I to the 23rd, I know it's right before 24. So again, it lines up with this row. Alright, well, let's start doing some products and some quotients. Well, the first one says simplify each product. So we have 5i times 4i. Well, technically I can say this is 5 times 4 times I times I. And I know that 5 times 4 is 20. I times I is I squared, which we said is negative 1. So my answer is just going to be negative 20. Okay, just don't forget, the big thing to remember is that I times I is I squared, which is negative 1. Here we have to simplify. Remember, we want to take the negative out to make it an I. So you get negative I root 10 times I root 5. And so now you're going to you're going to multiply, I times I is negative 1, but there is a negative already in front. So we have a positive 1. 10 times 5 is 50. But we don't even need that 1 in there anymore. And so the question we ask ourselves now is, can we break down 50? Which we can, which would be 25 times 2. Square root of 25 is 5, leaving us with a 2 underneath the root. Okay? Again, first take out the negatives to make them I times I is negative 1, but we have a negative here, so a negative is a positive 1. We did multiply the roots. 10 times 5 is 50. And then we broke down the 50. Okay? Here, again, we want to take that negative out. So we have 5 root 6 times 4i root 3. So here you just multiply. 5 times 4 is 20. I, root 6 times root 3 is root 18. And we know that we can break down 18 to be 9 times 2. So when you take the square root of 9, you get 3. 3 times 20 is 60. I, and you're left with the root 2 underneath. Again, the steps we did, take out the negative, make it an I. Then we multiplied the coefficients out in front. 5 times 4 is 20. Root 6 times root 3 is root 18. We still have the I there. And then we broke down the 18 to be 9 and 2. Therefore, we brought that out as a 3. Square root of 9 is 3. Times 20 is 60. Then we have the I root 2 as well. Still left over. Alright? Alright, let's keep moving on here. Yes. Simplify. Now we have two parentheses, two binomials with, so we have plus and minus on the inside. Therefore, this you guys should know that what we have to do here is FOIL. So we're going to FOIL. So we're going to do our first terms. 2 times 4 is 8. Outer, 2 times negative 5i gives us a negative 10i. Inner, 3i times 4 is 12i. And then here's the one you have to watch out for. Here you have 3 times negative 5, which is negative 15. But you have I times I, which is negative 1. So you got to watch out for that negative right here, because this is going to make this a positive 15. So we can say that this section here is positive 15. So now we come to combine like terms. We have 8 plus 15, which is 23. Negative 10i plus 12i is a positive 2i. And that would be your final answer. Okay? Again, I times I is negative 1, but we had a 3 times negative 5, which is negative 15. So negative times negative is a positive. 8 plus 15, 23. These combine to be positive 2i. Alright. Simplifying by rationalizing the denominator. So we did this before with roots, and now we're actually going to do it with I, which technically is a root anyways. We treat it just like we did before. You're going to multiply by the conjugate. Instead of multiplying by itself, we're going to switch the symbol here. And again, the purpose behind that is that when we do that, the outer and inner, if we were to FOIL this, those would cancel each other out. So now, on the bottom, we have 5 times 5 is 25. Negative 3i times positive 3i. Well, negative 3 times 3 is negative 9, but I times I is negative 1. So negative 9 times negative 1 gives us a positive 9. And up top we have 8, and then 5 plus 3i. So lastly, we're just going to simplify this. So we have 40 plus 24i over 34. And when you look at all three of these terms, they all are divisible by 2. So let's reduce all of this by 2. So our final answer would be 20 plus 12i over 17. This would be our final answer. Again, the way we did that, multiply by the conjugate, top and bottom. Okay, always the same symbol, top and bottom. We did the first and the last, and that's how we got 25 plus 9. Distribute the top up here. And then when we added, we noticed that all three of these numbers are multiples of 2. So we divided all three of those by 2. That's how we got 20 plus 12i over 17. Okay? Alright. Our next problem says to factor. We want to factor this into 2 parentheses. Well, what we've been doing in the past is we've been talking about what do you do when you have something squared minus something squared. And we've been breaking it up like this. 2x plus 5, 2x minus 5. Well, here we have a plus actually, so this switches it up a little bit. So you're going to have the similar answer. It's just since there's a plus, the thing to remember is that when you plug this in, or when you factor it out, this is going to be 5i. So plus 5i minus 5i. So you still have opposite symbols so that the outer and inner can cancel each other out. But the way we get a plus, erase that really quick. But the way we get a plus 25 is if we have I here, because 5 times negative 5 is negative 25, I times I is negative 1. And that's how we got positive 25 right here. So again, you're going to break it up just like you have in the past. It's just now, if there's a plus in between, we know to put I behind those numbers. Okay, so this would be our final answer if we're just trying to factor. Alright, here we go. Oh, that's our last example. So good luck with that, and I hope you do well and hope you understand, and ask questions at school for sure if you need help. Alright, good luck.